Welcome to Wise Owl Wisdom Channel.
Socrates said that the unexamined life is not worth living. The question is, what does it mean to examine our life? Does it mean to constantly analyze every action, every thought? Well, this kind of analysis doesn't really help us in daily life. As I said before, it doesn't mean constantly analyzing everything we say and do. Why should we bother examining our lives? We can start to figure out what we really want and what we really believe in. This can help us make decisions about our career, our relationships, and our life that are more true to ourselves. When we take the time to reflect on our life, we can start to appreciate all the good things that we have. We can become more grateful for our health, our friends, and our experiences. I invite you to check out my other videos on happiness, meaning, and purpose. Thank you for watching and have a great day. This increased sense of gratitude can make us more positive and optimistic, and it can help us to focus on the good things in life. For example, let's say you are feeling stressed out and unhappy with your job. When you take some time to examine your life, you may realize that you have a lot of other things to be grateful for, such as your family, your health, and your hobbies. This can help you to shift your perspective and to feel more positive about your life. We can start to live a life that is more authentic and meaningful to us. We can start to live a life that is more true to ourselves, more self-aware, and more meaningful. So I encourage you to take some time each day to be still and reflect on your life. Ask yourself questions like, how am I living? Am I living the life I want to live? And am I grateful for the things I have? By taking the time to examine our life, we can make sure that we are living a life that is truly our own. For example, let us say you've always wanted to be a writer, but you've been feeling pressured to get a more practical job. When you examine your beliefs and values, you may realize that being a writer is not just a dream, but something you are truly passionate about. This can give you the courage to pursue your dream and make the decision to become a writer. Well, there are many reasons, but let me give you just one. If we don't examine our lives, then we may end up living a life that is not truly our own. We may end up conforming to the expectations of others or simply following the crowd without ever stopping to ask ourselves whether this is what we really want. For example, have you ever felt pressured to get a certain job just because everyone else thought it was a good job, even though deep down you didn't really want it? Or have you ever felt pressured to pursue a certain kind of relationship just because everyone else thought it was a good idea, even though you weren't really interested? These are just two examples of how we might end up living a life that is not truly our own if we do examine our beliefs and values. Rather, it means taking some time away from the busyness of life to reflect on our beliefs, our values, and our way of thinking. It means asking ourselves questions like, why do we believe the things we believe? Why do we value the things we value? And the things that motivate us. When we take the time to reflect on our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior, we can start to understand ourselves better. We can become more aware of our strengths and weaknesses, our values and beliefs. This increased self-awareness can help us to make better decisions in life and to become more in tune with ourselves. For example, let's say you notice that you are constantly getting angry at work. When you take some time to examine this emotion, you may realize that you are feeling undervalued or disrespected. This realization can help you to take steps to change your situation, such as talking to your boss or looking for a new job. And what kind of people do we want to be? By asking ourselves these kinds of questions, we can start to examine our life and see if we are living in a way that is true to ourselves. Instead, what Socrates meant was that we need to question and reflect upon our beliefs, our values, and our way of thinking from time to time. But why do we need to do this? Why should we bother examining our lives? We might end up conforming to the expectations of others. Is it really so important? Socrates believed that it is important because if we don't examine our lives, then we might end up living a life that is not truly our own, or simply following the crowd without ever stopping to ask ourselves whether this is what we really want. Do you take some time out of your day to be still and reflect upon your life, your actions, your thoughts? And this is why he said the unexamined life is not worth living. Now, before we go any further, I would like you to take some time to think about your life and ask yourself, are you examining your life? You are already ahead of many people. Is so important, or do you find yourself constantly busy with external things, with work, with pleasure, with distractions? If you can answer yes to the first question, then that's wonderful. But if you found yourself answering no, then I hope these coming minutes will help you see why examining our lives and how it can bring more meaning and value into our everyday lives. So let's start by talking about what it means to examine our life. But why is it important to do this? On the other hand, when we take the time to examine our life, another reason why it is important to examine our life is because it can help us to become more self-aware. But perhaps the most important reason why it is important to examine our life is because it can help us to become more grateful. In conclusion, Socrates was right when he said that the unexamined life is not worth living. And if you want to learn more about how to live a life that is more true to yourself, hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this channel so far, and I hope you subscribed already.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.